Extraordinary executive orders to help illegals, but how about some extraordinary effort to help us legals, as in legal taxpayers? New reports showing the government wasting $2.4 billion in improper payments to food stamp recipients this year alone, and $78 billion more in several other federal benefit plans. That's why some here say the White House should be focusing more on reforming welfare programs instead of immigration policies. Are they right? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asset. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Mr. Steve Forbes, Elizabeth McDonald, Mike Gozanian, along with Sabrina Schaefer and Rick Unger. Mike, how about us legals?
David, America has truly become the land of the free, thanks to these huge welfare payments. If you look at 2011, the last year for which there are results available, the bottom three quintiles paid no federal income taxes thanks to the tremendous welfare payments that they received. All federal income taxes were paid by just the top two quintiles.
And Rick, look at the way welfare spending has increased since 2008 up until now. 48% increase in a lot of these new illegal immigrants. Now they're going to be able to receive some of this welfare.
Well, we don't know that that's true yet. We already do know that they're not going to be allowed to participate in Obamacare programs, but we'll see. We'll see if you turn out to be right. You could. Look, we can all get behind the idea of cleaning up waste in government no matter where it is. I'm with you all the way. What I don't quite understand, though, is why the question focuses only on welfare. It should focus on welfare. Where is the issue when it comes to defense, where we've got way more waste in spending in defense than we do on the social side?
There is waste all over, no doubt. You're right on that. But, Steve, the fact is, if we are going to allow millions of more immigrants to be eligible, conceivably, for welfare benefits, we got to fix this system. It's broken.
It's way broken in so many ways, David, and trying to root out all of this waste. You know, the bureaucrats know they're going to outlast those who supposedly rule them today. They know cabinet officers come and go, agency heads come and go, so it's very tough to do. But if they're serious about it, they can do numerous things, like little things, like study grants. Why do we need to study the sex life of cockroaches? I mean, you add all this junk up, you could start to save real money.
Well, Sabrina, you know, for people who need it, obviously even Ronald Reagan believed in a safety net, but clearly there is a lot of fraud going on. There are people taking advantage of the system, and until we start doling out millions and millions of more to all the legals who now will become legal, according to President Obama, we got to fix it.
No, you're right for so many reasons, right, David? Not only are we spending $70 billion a year on our food assistance program, we are eroding our culture of self-reliance. And on top of that, you hit the nail on the head. People do want to see these entitlement programs long term, especially women. Programs like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, they want these programs, but if we don't rein in some of this other spending and get a handle on the fraud, these programs won't be here for the long term to help those people.
And EMAC, let's spell it out specifically here. The food stamps, improper food stamp payments, I call it fraud, $2.4 billion. 1 year alone, improper payments for Medicare and Medicaid. Of course, we got a lot of new Medicaid people because of Obamacare. Look at this. These numbers are staggering.
Yeah, it doesn't even count the $1.5 trillion estimated of the empty federal or unused federal office buildings, because guess what? D.C. went on a real estate boom of its own.
That's
I mean,
right.
They're really in a bubble land, right? They look out the window and think everything looks great, but middle America is really hurting. You know, whenever people in Washington, D.C. take the moral high ground, you know, that tedious orgy of self-righteousness Jim Michaels, the former editor of Forbes, talked about?
Yeah.
Hold on to your wallets. I want to see the executive action first on cutting. It should no longer be treated as a rounding error. Cut the waste first before you raise taxes anytime. And cut taxes, actually.
Well,
I want to see executive order.
By the way, Mike Jose, a lot of people improperly say that Reagan did executive action when, in fact, he just signed a bill, Simpson-Mazzoli, on immigration that was signed by both houses of Congress. But he did take a lot of executive action on things like cutting welfare policies that were out of control. And, of course, look what Clinton did. He worked with Congress to cut welfare also.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich really helped use the power of the purse there with the Republican Congress. I agree with Rick that there is wasteful spending in the military and other areas. But I think what's unique to welfare is that the way it's set up now in the tax code, it punishes work. And that's one of the reasons why we've had the worst economic recovery since the 30s, things with keep extending unemployment benefits and so forth. We've been punishing workers, and when you punish something, you get less of it.
Rick?
Well, I got to challenge you a little bit, David. It's absolutely true that President Reagan signed the bill you referred to.
Simpson-Mazzoli in 1986.
But it's also true that he did later issue an executive order because there was something he had missed and he wanted to correct it.
He extended it for children.
He extended it for children
after Congress passed that. But let's not focus on the details of the immigration bill. Let's focus on welfare, okay?
I'm just saying that he did sign that
And I'm just saying that it was after Congress, both houses passed Simpson-Mazzoli, and he was adding on. That was the will of Congress to push that through, and then they extended it further. But anyway, go ahead. On welfare. On welfare.
What's the question on welfare?
The question is whether Mike is right. Are we punishing workers now, and we got to change that system? That's a perverse incentive.
You know that I am absolutely on board the idea of looking closer at the welfare system. If it were me, I'd be spending more time and money looking at welfare cheats. You go to any welfare office, any unemployment office, you see who really needs it and who is scamming the system.
All right, Steve, maybe we should put Rick in charge.
Yeah.
What do you think, Steve?
Well, it's been done before, David, when Giuliani became mayor of New York in the early 1990s. New York had 1.1 million welfare recipients. Today it's about, what, 350,000? Yeah. A lot of that was fraud. They cut 100,000 right off the bat for people who are living in New Jersey, drawing on welfare benefits in New York.
And again, I'm sure Rick Unger was supporting President Clinton when he went along with Congress and did all those welfare reforms. But Sabrina, the overall question is priorities. Why is that priority now for illegal immigrants when we got to straighten out our system before we let all these people in legally?
Well, you make a good point that we want to get our ducks in a row before we let more people into the country, although I'm not sure that we have the luxury to take care of one before the other. And I think that it's important that Washington looks at some of the states. I mean, look at what has happened to California. I am a California girl originally. We had an incredible workers' compensation system there that was rife with fraud. It has drained the state in a disaster, and now they are doing the right thing, trying to tighten the reins, trying to, rein this thing in, but it's unwieldy. It is very difficult. I think you're right in many ways. We do need to take care of this before we do anything else.
I don't want to make too many generalizations here, but there are generally two kinds of immigrants that come into the United States. One, unfortunately, a group comes in to take advantage of our welfare spending, whether it's pregnant mothers or whomever. Another group come in specifically to work. We want to focus, if we're going to let immigrants in, we want to focus on those who want to work, not those who want to take welfare.
The president is not increasing the H-1B visas for the skilled workers. 40% of the Fortune 500 is invented by or created by immigrants who came here legally.
But even the temporary workers, not necessarily the high-tech, but we used to have a program, by the way, that let the temporary workers come in to work and then they could go home.
But the backdrop here, we have 2 million fewer full-time jobs than in 2007. We need those full-time jobs to pay for these benefits. And by the way, speaking to Mike Ozanian's point, when you adjust for all the government benefits that go out to people, the top bracket actually pays just 7 times, actually, the income is just 7 times of that lower bracket. It's not 15 times. And by the way, they pay 30, 40 times in taxes.
Steve, let me just talk for a moment about this program we used to have called the Braceros Program. It worked great from the 1940s, 50s, 60s. Then the unions killed it because they said it was bringing down salaries. So the unions killed off this program. Maybe we should go back to that. Allow workers in temporarily, and then they can go home.
It's the way to go, David, for guest workers, but not only in agriculture, but in construction and some other areas.
And it guarantees, forgive me for interrupting, but it guarantees that people come into work not to take welfare.
Well, and also you have fewer illegals precisely because they know if they go home, they can come back again for a specific period of time to work. That would cut it in half overnight.
Last word from Steve Forbes. Well, it's not just a surge in welfare. Cashing in on what else if we see a new surge across our border thanks to the president's new order. But first, Republicans promising to roll back Obamacare. But what if we told you their biggest obstacle to do it is not Democrats in Congress, it's crony capitalists at health insurers?